Hi, I'm Brittany Rizzo, and welcome to My Only Friends. On today's episode, we have Caroline Henry. Caroline Henry is an actress and director originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Most recently, she appeared as Amberleigh in She-Hulk on Disney+. You can also catch her in the CW horror comedy Kappa Kappa Die. Caroline is one of my closest friends, and we had a really fun time during this interview. This episode reminds me of the one with Ross's tan for many reasons. Caroline and I talk about how we love bloopers of our favorite TV shows. And this episode where Rachel and Joey quote unquote power through and where Lisa Kudrow can't stop laughing at Jennifer Coolidge are some of my favorite bloopers of Friends. It is also the episode we talk about in our conversation where Monica learns Phoebe tried to cut out Monica, but Phoebe couldn't because Monica was so persistent in staying friends. And lastly, because of Ross's iconic spray tan mishap. Caroline and I talk about our odds and ends jobs we've had out in LA, and spray tanning is one of mine. I can't tell you how many times a new client will refer to this episode and say, please don't make me look like Ross. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Caroline Henry. Caroline. Did people do that a lot to you when that song came out?
Oh yeah, I got Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
That song. I know there's like a new song that just came out by the 1972 that I don't even know yet.
I think it's 1975, Grandma.
1975. A different year. Another time. Oh, wait, are we recording this? Like, are you going to post a video of this too? Because people should not.
No, do you see me? I'm in my pajamas.
This is a face for podcasts, you know?
No way. That's funny. You were actually in my phone as Sweet Caroline for a really long time until Apple started doing that thing where it was like, update your contacts. And then it's like, you guys get to choose, people get to choose like what picture and everything. Yeah. And it kind of pisses me off because I had like cute pictures for people and fun names. And then, you know, everything just got modernized.
Change it back. What was my picture? I hope I'm not terrible.
I don't know. Probably one of you and I together.
Okay, cute.
Yeah. It's funny though, because like Jake every morning goes, hey, Brittany. Like that's what everybody did for my name with Britney Spears. So
that's a good one. Also, you sounded so good singing that just now.
Oh man, I'm surprised I could still sing after how much I've been coughing the past like 2 weeks.
Yeah, are you still sick?
No, I'm not. It's just like that residual annoying cough. I know it's like so fast to get it into what show you chose, but I was thinking about it last night because you chose New Girl, and the episode that always makes me laugh is when Nick and Jess are fighting and he opens the drawer and was like, you have a drawer full of peanuts. What are you, a zoo elephant? And she goes, those are my nighttime peanuts. And last night I got home super late, and I feel like anybody who knows me or who has been over my house when it's like past 9 o'clock, I have my nighttime yogurt. And last night I had none of my nighttime yogurt left, and I was so mad, and it just like threw off my whole night. Do you have something like that?
You are Jess. You are Jess. No, I don't have a nighttime snack that I keep in my nightstand for convenience. No, but it is kind of genius. And also like never revisited in the entirety of the show.
I know.
Like that's the only time that it's like Jess has nighttime peanuts. Like, okay.
Mentioned. Do you have like a routine at night? Like if you don't do something, like your whole night is kind of thrown off?
That's a good question. No. And it's so funny. Like Cameron, my partner, like tells me I can just like fall asleep in any location, like under any circumstances. So truly, as soon as well, actually, that's not true. I have 4 pillars of sleep. 1 is safe. 2 is warm. 3 is horizontal. Like I have to be like laying down. And then 4 is snugged. So if I have a blanket and I'm warm and I'm safe and I'm flat, I'll sleep. That's all I need.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I think of Schmidt too all the time when I do this, because when he was like, he's like, what is he anxious about? But he's like, I can't stop peeing. And literally before I go to sleep, I think I pee like 30 times because I'm like anxious at night. So it's like nonstop
You're just worried? Are you worried like, well, if I don't pee now, like I'm gonna have to get up in the middle of the night?
I think I have this bladder of a 3-year-old. So I feel like it's just a mixture of that and like, well, I'm finally comfortable. So of course I have to pee. And then once I get up and pee and then I'm like, well, now I'm thirsty. And then I'll literally just like, I sound like a crazy person. I'll literally just put like the tiniest sip of water in my mouth and be like, okay, there's no way this can go through me.
You time it just right. Actually, this is probably like TMI, but I heard like this fitness guru. She was like, you should really wait until your pee lasts 12 seconds. And if you're not peeing for full 12 seconds, then you're allowing your body to like pee too often.
Oh, I feel like that's like a UTI waiting to happen for me.
I don't know. That's what we said. I was like, okay, interesting. Like I should hold it.
Oh my gosh. So we should tell people how we know each other. I mean, gosh, was it like 2014, 2015, we became friends. And then we've just been kind of, we worked together on scenes. We were in class together. And you actually just directed me yesterday in a Zoom audition.
You're excellent.
You are such a good director. Also like you said yesterday, you're like, yeah, well, I feel like because I know you, I have a little bit of a cheat code. But the notes that you give when just trying to visualize something or get somebody to think of something completely differently or bring an emotion out, it's just so good. And I feel like I have permission to be like really silly or fun and like carefree in front of you, which is like a really amazing quality that you have.
Oh, that's really kind of you to say, and thank you. And it's so funny, like I've been told by friends when I help self-tape that I am a very good director, or at least an actor's director. And at first I took that so the wrong way. Like I was so offended. I was like, I'm an actor, I'm not a good director. Like, come on. Like I thought that they were trying to like push me into something else. Mm-hmm. And now I realize like, A, like being a good director and like being able to break down a scene like also makes you a good actor. And B, like directing is so cool and like something I've always wanted to explore. And I think just having it in my mind that I can only do this one creative thing is so limited.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see so many women now getting the recognition they deserve for directing, and also directing is like one of the hardest jobs. You're paying attention to absolutely every little thing. Like you don't just get to be this character and show up and focus on yourself and your performance and working, collaborating with your other castmates. Like you are literally thinking about every single aspect. So to be able to have that in your brain and be able to have an eye for things like that, I think it's an incredible talent.
Yeah, I think as an actor, like we really like have a heart for, and our mind is really like on protecting the character or like taking care of telling this character's point of view or story. And I guess as a director, you're kind of taking care of the entirety of the story. Like what is the arc and all of the pieces. So it's just another way of storytelling, I guess. Another avenue.
And you also just premiered on screen in a Marvel show on She-Hulk, and it was amazing. And I was sitting in my apartment screaming, crying at the television.
No, that was so kind. And you sent me a video. You're like, I'm crying. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And it's so funny. Like, you're so supportive of me and I'm so grateful. And I truly feel the same way about you. Like, how lucky are we to have friends that like truly revel in each other's successes. And like, I feel every single one you have, like you doing this podcast, like I cried when I heard the trailer. It's so big and full circle to be here, like as a guest on one of your shows. I'm so grateful.
Well, of course you're going to be on it. Thank you for saying that. But this is about you. So
it's about us, Brittany. It's about us.
Yeah, it's about us. So, okay. Walk me through, because I'm sure there's so many, and as much as you can talk about, there's so many people who are so interested on what a Marvel set is like. And were you terrified when you first got there?
Yes,
or were you excited, or both?
I think I was really excited, and I felt like it was the first time that I was given an opportunity like this to get my work in front of more people. So that part was really exciting. And then once I was there in Atlanta, like away from home, away from like a lot of my people and support system, I was so scared. And I had a lot of time before I was shooting to kind of hype myself up about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really great. I got to go to the studio a couple days before for like a fitting and a bunch of tests and all that good stuff. So I was lucky enough to have my fitting and then kind of get to see and meet people on the set beforehand, which just made me feel a lot more comfortable. So by the time I was actually there to shoot, and I shot for 3 days, which is crazy for the amount of like screen time I actually had, but because of all the VFX that were in that particular scene, it just took a lot of time to nail down all of the shots. And we did things like with practical effects and without it, and with the changing of the lights and all the things. So it was really cool to see these masters of visual effects like at work and working together as such a team with the director of photography, the director, like the camera units. They had 3 cameras rolling at any given time. Like it was really cool.
Yeah. And it was also so good. Like I remember after I watched it, I was like, wait, can I even do this? Cause that was so good. Like, I don't know if I could do that. And I literally like looked at my hand and pretended to like do your part. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that too. But it was like, you were just so good that I was like, whoa. But after that, like I was like so inspired, and it's fun to be inspired by your friends. And, you know, I feel like I was like, okay, she's amazing. What classes is she taking? Like, and I asked you, I'm like, what class are you in? Like, what I need to be like on this trajectory as well. Not the same one, but like, you know, I was inspired by what you did and how amazing you looked on screen, and your performance was amazing. You got such good time on there. I thought it was incredible, and I was so excited for you.
No, it was really cool. And honestly, like Kat Coiro, the director, the female director of like the episode, she was kind of like the driver of the entire series. She was like an executive producer and all that good stuff as well. But she, I think, directed like 6 episodes, and I was lucky to be on one of them. And she is such a badass. And it was cool to see her take such control of the set, and she gave great direction and made everyone feel really welcome. So like that was really cool too. And honestly, like I was so inspired by her. Like it's so kind that you were inspired by my work, and like we have to just lift each other up, you know?
Absolutely. And I think too, having that thought of like, look, everyone here is kind of scared shitless and just pretending like we know what we're doing.
Oh yeah. Everyone there was kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do for this? And like, it was really like the magnitude of it was intimidating, but at the same time, it was really nice to see the curtain pulled back of like, oh, all these people are just like doing their best and figuring it out on the day. And like, I mean, some of it is not glamorous at all. Like they were, when the little monsters are like jumping around, they had a Beanie Baby on a stick that they were like flinging around for an eyeline. Like it's not like, a lot of it is not fancy, you know, they don't have like these great, it's a lot of imagination, but it also, that makes it so much fun too. Like on set, it's hilarious. These guys are like dealing with these like stuffed animals on sticks or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I forget that like, when I did Wizards, I had to levitate a lamp, and it was truly just this, you know, prop department guy crouching down and getting up and crouching down and getting up. And you're like, ooh, look at me. I'm making a lamp levitate, even though it's like magic. This guy's like, oh, my back is fucking killing me.
Hilarious. But so cool to see. Like, I never would have known how to shoot these things that they shoot, or like how they mock up things on real objects. And
right. Do you have like a certain thing you do before a performance that helps you get like centered?
Yes and no. I think it's really good to just feel your feet on the ground. In this particular instance, like on She-Hulk, I was wearing these crazy high heels. So I was like, oh, like I hope I can even walk in these. So it was like hard to feel grounded in the same way. But when I just returned to, and I feel on most sets they do this, but we were lucky enough to like have a quick rehearsal where we were just like, let's say the words and like, let's stand in the spots that we're supposed to be. And truly, like, as soon as I was connected with my scene partner, I felt all of that fall away. I was like, oh my God, like this is what we do in class every week. This is Like I get really grounded in the other person that I'm there with because you're almost never alone. That is really nice. And I also feel like just taking the attention off of yourself and like putting it on someone else or what you're doing or anything like that can be really helpful for preventing you from kind of spinning into your own abyss.
Absolutely. And that goes for anything in life. You know, it's like one of my acting teachers had said, like, when you feel lost in a scene, the best thing you can do is listen to the other person. Or when you feel scared or confused, like the best thing you can do is listen. And that also just goes to anything in life where, you know, if you feel like you're flailing, like call up a friend and just listen to them and get more connected to the outside world and get out of your own head in your own way.
Right. Being present. Like, don't worry about what's going to be or what was. Like, what is actually right now? And are you okay right now in this moment? And almost always, like, of course, there's terrible circumstances where you might not be, but almost always, like, in the actual moment, you are okay. And it's nice to just reground in that.
Yeah. Being present gets so hard as you get older, I find.
Yeah.
Because you just have so many things to think about. And like, especially for me, like whenever I leave Las Vegas after like the holidays or like a good chunk of time and have to get like used to LA again and back into the motions of everything, of work and auditioning and, you know, bills and this, it's so hard to be present because you're like, oh, I just left so much like comfortability and the, you know, safety of my home and my dogs and my mom. And I just, especially in the past like 2 weeks, I had to keep reminding myself, like, Brittany, the more resistance you have to this present moment, the more suffering you're going to cause yourself. And that is just kind of what I have to like check in with myself and tell myself all the time. And just having the awareness of like, oh, I'm not being present right now. And how is this actually affecting me? And it's like, am I actually upset about what's happening in front of me in the moment? Or is it because my head is wishing I was somewhere else? So that's why I hate this moment right now. And it's just, it's hard to get to that awareness. But once you do, you just feel this whole sense of like calmness, and it helps in every aspect of your life. But that self-awareness, like getting to that point is definitely, it's a practice.
Yeah. And that's such great insight that you are like, wow, my thoughts are actually somewhere else. Like, even though they seem like, oh, I'm here, I'm doing my job, your thoughts are actually comparing it to something else you might want to be doing or whatever, even subconsciously. Because, and I listen to this podcast that talks about like how our thoughts cause our feelings. And like, it's really good to reground and like, okay, I'm feeling this feeling come up. Like, what's the actual thought that I'm thinking that is making me feel this way? Because a lot of times it's just like a thought you could change, or you could think something different. Like if you wanted, it's nice to have that agency over the way that you might feel about a situation or your circumstance.
It's so true. So you, correct me if I'm wrong, you also just got done directing a short film? I'm working on directing a short film. We're still in the writing and developing stages. So that will come out. I mean, I have a meeting on Tuesday. We're almost done with the script, and like that will probably move into production in the next couple of weeks or so. Maybe you're thinking of the music video? No. See, here's the thing that I love about you is that you don't wait for anybody to give you a job. I think since I've known you, you're like, you've been working on scenes for your reel, or you're working in class, or you help other people with their projects, and you take a lot on that keeps you grounded and connected into this industry and into your passion, which is super admirable. And, you know, often I'm like, damn, am I doing enough? And, you know, I had Scott Sedita on here, and he had said the best thing you can do is an hour a day of whatever it is you're passionate about every single day. And I definitely think you are somebody who does that.
I think that's generous. I think an hour a day is a lot. Like, that's a big commitment, especially when, I mean, like you or I, we're juggling 18 million things to like make the creative life work. And it's a nice reminder that like, we're doing this so that we can have space and time and flexibility to do this other thing. Like, let's make sure we commit to the time for it, like the hour a day or whatever it might be. And I do try to like keep space for creativity, whether that be like reading something or writing something or having a production meeting or things, or just brainstorming. Like Cameron and I love to just chat about ideas for films. And just keeping that like part of your brain active is always a good thing.
Yeah. I also just like thought about how I'm like, oh yeah. And Cameron took an idea from me from my really shitty date.
Oh my God. Right. I'm telling you, like in life, we write stuff down all the time. Like, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
You could have picked that up. Like the best stories do come from real life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so funny. I think about it all the time. What did I was like, you want to get a fucking otter, but you couldn't buy me a piece of chicken?
Yeah. When you went on that date.
Yeah. This guy is talking about how he wanted to get a sea otter for a pet and didn't even pay for my meal. And I was like, so you want to buy like a exotic animal and put it in your bathtub, but you couldn't buy me a side breast? Like, just that was so bad. We don't even need to
priorities not in the right place.
But yeah, it is so true. Like those real life moments are definitely what we relate to the most when we are watching TV and film. Because I mean, like Jess's nighttime peanuts, like somebody has nighttime peanuts. I have my nighttime yogurt.
Because or something of that nature that is that specific. Like we relate to it because of the specificity of it, I feel.
Right. When was the first time you saw yourself in a character?
I thought a lot about this. I don't know the first time. And I also feel like on the particular show, New Girl, there's not one person that I feel I identify most. I was talking about this with a friend and he was like, well, you're kind of like when Megan Fox comes on the show, like Reagan. I was like, no, that's lame. Like, I'm not like that. But I feel that the beauty of the show is I find myself relating to each of the characters in different storylines, like the things that they're actually working through. Like when Jess is having a hard time, like, getting herself motivated to apply for a new job, or Nick's having a hard time like getting over his breakup, or like Winston's having an issue with like feeling like he missed out on the last 7 years and he's got to catch up on all the media and things that are out there. Like I just feel that each of the characters like have these amazing humanizing things that they're working through, and even though it's a super fun elevated comedy, they do have like a lot, they're facing a lot of real things that we face. They're just having a lot more fun doing it, or we're having fun watching them do it.
Right. You know, that's so interesting because I think I posted it on the podcast Instagram. There was the speaker who was saying that's a good way on how to combat your anxiety is, you know, when we see Ross trying to get the leather pants on and they won't come up because they're stuck, and he's got the lotion and the baby powder, he hits himself in the face, someone's knocking on the door, and like for him that situation is awful, like anxiety inducing. He wants out of it so bad, but as the watcher we're laughing our ass off, like this could not be funnier. So he was like, well, why don't we all look at our anxiety that way, is like become the watcher of it so that you can take yourself out of it and go, this is a funny scene. Like this is a funny scene and relatable scene. So it makes that moment not that bad, which is, you know, kind of what you were saying is like, as the watcher of these people, a New Girl, and seeing them go through these situations, they make it super funny. So it's not, because if it wasn't a dramatic show, you'd be like, oh my God, this is awful. How are they going to get out of this?
And this is why I cannot watch drama, by the way. Everyone's like, oh, you're an actor. Like, you don't let, I'm like, no, I like, it's too real for me. And maybe it's because we're actors or we're empaths or whatever. I'm like, it makes me stress out. I already have plenty of stress and plenty of drama. Like, I don't need to like feel someone else's additionally.
I get that because I just watched Fleischman is in Trouble, all of it. And while the performances were amazing, the writing was amazing. I was like an on edge bitch the whole time I was watching that show. Because I take it on. I take it on so much. And I was in like a pissy mood. Like I can't separate it when I'm not into it. And like, but with Parenthood, I'm rewatching Parenthood again for the millionth time right now. And I think that's one of those shows where I watch it more, like, you know, sometimes I'll get really into the storylines and I'll sob hysterically, just like, oof, Lord, like it gives me that good release when I feel like I need a good cry, but I will watch it as like an acting class because they're all just so incredible that it's like. But what was like the show when you were younger that made you go, okay, I want to be an actor. I want to be in this world.
It's so funny. Everyone asks this question, like, what made you want to be an actor? And I think because I grew up going from school to field hockey practice to rehearsal for
field hockey practice.
Oh, yeah. I played sports, like doing all the things, way overcommitted child, overachiever, whatever. I actually did not watch much TV or movies. And it's so funny. People ask me like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'll always say like, I think I've seen like 5 minutes of it because I would come home from practice or whatever. And my dad or brothers would be watching something and I'd stand in the doorway for like 5 minutes and watch them. And then I'd have to go up and do my homework. Like, so I've really only seen like bits and pieces of things. So there was no one moment of like, wow, I went to the theater. Like it didn't even really occur to me that acting was a job, like growing up at all. It was something that I fell into. I played piano and I broke my arm like all the way up to shoulder cast situation. So I couldn't play the piano. And my teacher was like, do you want to try just like voice lessons instead? So I did that. And he was like, okay, you're way better at this. Like, let's quit the piano. So I like started singing instead, which then led me to musical theater when I was like in middle school. And then from there, I kept doing it in high school. And it was always something like an extracurricular I did for fun. And then when I was deciding to go away for school, my parents were encouraging of the fact that I wanted to pursue theater and acting, but they were like, you really need to study something for real and get a real job or have a degree in something that you could get a real job in. So as I was deciding like where to go to school, and I had to find a school that kind of like had a double program, or I just had to go to a regular college. And as I was getting those like acceptances and rejection letters, I realized that I could not live without acting. Like I could not go to a regular school and be without this thing that really gave me my voice and made me feel like I had a place. And so I just couldn't walk away from it. In college, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like people do this for a living and like commit to a lifetime of acting. And that was kind of a revolutionary thought to me. I guess I never either saw it for myself or saw it modeled for me growing up.
Right.
So it really wasn't until like between 18 and 21 that I realized like, oh man, like I could do this for the rest of my life. And like, how cool would that be? And I'm lucky enough to have like a family that was willing to let me take the leap and see where I landed.
Right.
So it wasn't like I watched a movie and was like, wow, I want to be like that. I wish it was like that. It didn't even occur to me that that could be a reality for me.
No, I get that. I felt like the same way. Like these people just on screen, they always felt, even though they were only a few years older than us in real life, they always felt older and so far away, like this mystical land.
They weren't real. Yeah. Like I saw them as the character. I didn't see like, oh, that's a person that is pretending. Like it just didn't, it wasn't on my radar at all. I don't know. Right.
Where like here, kids are like, oh yeah, I go to school with their kid. Like it's just like they live in the industry, basically. Part of their,
yeah, exactly. Like I grew up in Pittsburgh. Like no one even talked about that or did that. There was like one program for theater in town, and it was like for fun.
How long would you say it took you in LA to like finally get on your feet?
Well, I would say get on my feet and when it felt like home were different times. Like I think after a year of living in LA, I was on my feet. Like I'd found a job.
Oh shit, good for you.
I was able to. I found a place to live. I met a couple friends. I didn't by any means feel like it was home yet, but I just felt like, okay, I'm not going to drown. Like I have some safety nets and some places to be and things to do and ways to get paid. Like that's that first year and a half, I felt that way. And then it wasn't, honestly. And people say like it takes about 5 years. I think like 5 years in, I was like, wow, I have a great group of friends.
Yeah.
Now when I go back to Pittsburgh or I'm with family, it feels more like I'm visiting and I come back home to LA.
Yeah.
Like that's when that shift started to happen, I think.
Absolutely. I get that. I think 5 years for me too. I think it was like once I got into the acting class that I did and I met Mickey and Michael and Chad and Marielle and, you know, just
We're
everybody.
Still friends with, like, that is, by the way, amazing.
Yeah. I'm like, once you're in my life, you're in it, whether you like it or not. And it's kind of like there's have you seen the episode of Friends where Phoebe, with Jennifer Coolidge actually, and Phoebe and Monica tried to like ice her out a little bit because she's so annoying. And Jennifer Coolidge's character is like brings up the fact that they tried to do it to Monica years ago. And Monica's all mad, but Phoebe's like, yeah, but you wouldn't let me. Like, you wouldn't let me ice you out because you're scrappy and this and that. And like, I was like, oh yeah, that's me. Like, if you're in my life, you're not getting rid of me. Sorry.
Just be persistent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all friendship is like put in the work and you shall reap the rewards, you know?
Absolutely. So you chose New Girl. We've already talked a little bit about like why you like that show so much. And people would be, I don't know if I've said it on this show before or not, but I think I am a Nick and Jess stan more than I'm a Ross and Rachel stan. I know.
Wait, what?
I know, because here's the thing.
How does that happen?
Here's the thing. I think that Ross and Rachel, when they broke up, like Ross was pretty terrible to Rachel and like kind of, you know, he was possessive and jealous and like, they had, well, it's, you know, funny if you look at it, it's like he never really wanted, neither one of them wanted each other to be happy. They were always sabotaging the other person's relationships. Where like Nick and Jess, even when they broke up, they remained best friends. And like the scene where they're crying on the couch. Yeah. And she's like, they break up and she's on the couch crying, watching Dirty Dancing, and he's in his room crying. It's like, but they're on the phone with each other. It's like they're just so sweet to each other. And it's funny because I never really watch a show and be like, oh, I want a boyfriend. But and Nick Miller, as flawed as he may be, that's the one time I'm like, Nick Miller makes me want a boyfriend.
Wow.
I know.
That says a lot.
I know.
A lot. I saw him once at a gymnastics class with kids. I was babysitting.
That's so funny. I used to work front desk at a gym and he would come in all the time and I would just be like, oh my God, it's Nick Miller.
He's also like a comedic genius.
100%. Him and Max Greenfield are like,
oh yeah,
insane.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's
Wait,
just...
also, I need to ask you, did you watch, I know I also said like Always Sunny and for different reasons. But did you watch any? And I need to know what you thought.
See, here's the thing. My old roommate would watch Always Sunny, and it was just something that would be on for me that I would like chuckle at a couple of times. But I was watching their bloopers, which I find funnier. And it's interesting because with The Office, I'm the same way. Like I understand why people love The Office. I understand why it's very funny. When I sit down and watch it, I can't get into it for some reason. And that's kind of how I felt with Always Sunny. Like, I understand that these people are brilliant and that it's hilarious, but there's something in it where my heart isn't going, I need to pay attention more. But with The Office and It's Always Sunny, if there are bloopers, I'm watching all of them. Like,
the bloopers are amazing. I actually prefer the bloopers to the show.
Yeah, I can. And I think too, like, you know, I've seen every single Friends blooper that there is. And you had said like you find comfort sometimes in just watching the blooper reels.
Oh, yeah, that is my comfort. Like, actually, when you were like, what's the thing that you could rewatch a million times? It's Always Sunny bloopers. I think partially because that show, I was introduced to that show by my brothers when I was still like living at home in Pittsburgh. And it was something that we shared and connected over. And still to this day, when I go back home or I see them on holidays, we watch new episodes or new bloopers or all those things. So it's something that we share together. So I think the reason I find comfort in it is because of like the relationship I have with the show and my family. But the bloopers are something that I revisit time and time again as a comfort thing. I think I love watching them work. I love getting to see behind the curtain and know like they make mistakes. They're coming up with it on the fly. Like it gives so much so much liberty to a performer, and depending on the show that you're working on, to know that you can like play and find something that may be even better than what was on the page with the writer's permission, and obviously like how the set is run and all those good things. But I just love the way that they work. And it's cool to get to kind of get a glimpse into that.
That's what I was noticing too in the bloopers. When I do watch, it's like, you know, we think we have to show up and do a good job and be amazing and be perfect. And it's like, these people are screwing up too, and they're laughing it off and they're having a good time. Like, that's the point of all of this. If you're not having fun, then, you know, why do it?
Right. 100%. And it looks so fun. I'm like, wow, these people must just have a blast at work every day. Like, how fun.
A lot of the reason why I ask people's comfort and everything is because I know that like Friends helps my anxiety and my depression, my ruminating thoughts. And so what are some of the, you know, mental health aspects that you deal with?
So a big thing that I mostly come up against is depression. I think I have bouts of little anxiety things, but mostly depression. And back to New Girl, like something I love about that show is the way that they face things that come up in their life. And like, it gives good perspective on situations, and it's lighthearted, and it makes me feel less alone in like those moments. And it just reminds me like something that is hard for me and that I'm working on is just finding value in myself outside of circumstantial events or implications that might like tell me that I have value. Like just feeling that within myself without those external kind of reassurances or rewards. And like, I look at those characters and I can see their value and like their friendship with each other and the way that they show up for one another in their relationships. And like, they just have intrinsic value just being who they are. And so it's nice to kind of see that and be reminded of that in a way like outside of my own personal life.
I think a lot of it is in that, and that's what I struggled with a lot too, is the worthiness of it all, like feeling not worthy. But like, who even told us we weren't worthy besides ourselves?
No,
and it's a matter of too, like, especially being in this industry and wanting this career the way we do, it's like, well, you have to walk into every room like you are worthy, whether you believe it or not. And, you know, there are people in this town who make you feel less worthy, but you don't have to take that on. And that's been something I've been working on too, of like, you know, if someone's going through something or if somebody says something to me, it's kind of, that I don't agree with or that hurts my feelings, I kind of take a moment and I go, okay, but I don't have to take that on. I don't have to give that meaning. I don't have to think about it. Like, we give those things the power. And it's funny, I was actually telling Jake the other day, the headshot photographer you and I both went to, where he made both of us feel terrible about our bodies. And like, to this day, like, I'm getting new headshots done and I am mortified because I have to get, you know, I'm trying to figure out what to wear. And mind you, like, I was 118 pounds when I took these photos with this photographer. And after 2 or 3 shots, he told me I should put on a jacket because my arms were chunky. And I took it on and I went into the bathroom and I was like, you know what? You're spending a fortune on these. Like, go out there and just take some photos. And it was like one of those things where I just had to, and I was young, you know, I was 25, I think. And now as an adult, well, I was an adult then, but now, you know, almost being 32, I'm like, I get to say, and I always have, but having that understanding of like, no, I get to say that that's not about me. That's about this guy and how he feels. And like, I don't have to take that on. That's not my problem.
Almost anytime like someone makes you feel less than, it's something they're working out with themselves. It's just, we have to remind ourselves that, you know, because we're working on our own stuff and that activates all sorts of things that we might be working through. It's hard to remember in the moment when you're feeling a little activated, but almost always about them.
What does depression look like for you? Because it looks so different for everybody. And I think people are under this impression that depression is just like crying in your room all day and like not getting ready and being, you know, a slob. And if that is the way your depression looks, that's fine too. But I think we see a lot, especially in the last year, of the happiest people in the world are the most depressed. And so I think having those kind of, awarenesses in your friend group and seeing like, oh, people know if I'm binging Gilmore Girls, my depression is bad. So that's kind of like my little life alert button. Like my friends know, like, maybe we should check on Brittany. So what is that? What is that for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am the most organized, busy, depressed person I know. Like my room is never a mess and I always get out of bed. I don't always look amazing getting out of bed, but like it happens. I'd say for me, depression is, I like to just call it the loop. So literally in my brain, it's just a thought loop. So, and as it gets more deeply and deeply entrenched, like the thoughts are running through over and over and over again, and the ravine itself is getting wider, like I will just find that almost every thought or conversation or anything like that will lead me back to the same kind of end result, like thought pattern. And usually only the people closest to me that I feel comfortable confiding in will kind of see me go down into the loop. Because, I might say something or like, so basically the thought loop is I always land at, Caroline, you're a failure. You're a disappointment. Nothing's going to work out for you. Like things along that line. And people will start to see that, like I'll get a note in acting class or I'll have a conversation or the plans might change in my life. And all of a sudden I feel like not worthy. Then I feel like a disappointment or whatever. And it kind of spirals that way. So for me, it just looks like anytime I'm starting to live a lot in that thought pattern, or it's like cropping up like more than once or twice a day, I'm like, okay, time to regroup, time to either like do something that feels really good for me, like go on a hike or watch a show, New Girl or whatever, go to a movie, like things that feel good to me and help pull me out of it. I think that's been really helpful. And this was advice that was given to me recently, and I've been implementing it over the last couple of weeks, is just getting sunlight every day, like being outside for 20 minutes every single day between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Because you don't want that like super early morning sunlight and you don't want that like dusk sunlight. You need that real direct sunlight every single day.
I'm like looking at it. I'm like, damn, I missed my window. So we'll try again tomorrow.
I know. Should we pause and come back and you get a couple minutes of sunlight before it's 2 p.m.?
As somebody who hates the outdoors, like I have always felt like there are times where I'm like, I really need fresh air. But then I'm like, my idea of like a 20-minute walk is at Fashion Square Mall. So
it doesn't even have to be a walk. Like you could just sit outside, just be in the sunlight, sunbathe, whatever like feels good for you and your body. But I have found just like literal sunlight scientifically helps to improve your mood. And I just think about like, I'm a plant mom, so I have many different plants. I have this one particular plant that will droop so much that it looks like it is literally dead or dying. And I give it a little bit of water and I'll sit it by the window where it can get sunlight. And in an hour or two, it looks like a different plant. I'm just like,
you should call your plant Caroline and you have to take care of it like it's yourself.
Well, I'm like, think about how much like plants are just beings like us. Like think about how much more that we might benefit if we just sat for a second, drank a little water and got some effing sunlight. You know what I mean?
Right.
We need that too.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny when people say that they like, look, I don't understand plants indoors. I don't get it. I don't want the outside in. Like, I don't get it. But I'm like, those flowers behind you are fake. Sarah made that, right?
Yeah, Sarah made that.
I love that you have that.
Yeah, it's still up on my wall.
But I do love, it's like, again, like you said, it's just, I find too, it's like with, whether it be plants or my nephew or, dog sitting or just being of service to something else really helps take you out of the loop. because
it's the same thing with acting. You're putting your attention on something else. It's not all about you. Like this existence, if we were just on this planet by ourselves, how meaningless would that be?
Right.
You know? So it's really good to put your attention on someone else or something else.
Is there a specific habit you've picked up on because of a character? Because when I watch New Girl, I find I start talking like Schmidt.
Oh my word. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Like you're like, da, 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 like all the time. Like, and I'm
telling you.
Yes. Yes. Just like his crazy over pronunciation of words. And like, I find that when I'm in a heavy New Girl rotation, and look, I would say, I think I just did on somebody else's podcast, my guest list podcast. I was on it. And I think New Girl was my number 4 or number 5 show. Like it's very high up there for me.
Up there. Yeah.
It's probably one of the shows I quote a lot of and have taken a lot from. Is there a specific quote from New Girl that you always use?
Yeah. I mean, it is technically a quote from New Girl, but in the episode where Schmidt doesn't date or doesn't dump Elizabeth or Cece, and he's like trying to keep them both without telling. And then he is like, Nick, I need help. Like, and he's trying to explain the situation to Nick, and Nick just over and over again goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And he keeps explaining it. So truly, like in my day to day, I'd say at least 2 times a week, I will find myself saying, what do you mean?
That is amazing.
Exactly.
New Girl is one of those shows where every time I watch it, I find something new that is so unbelievably funny. One part that literally makes me like cry laughing is when Nick doesn't want to kiss Jess, so he goes out on the like balcony and Schmidt sees him outside of the window and just faints. It's literally
it's so good. Honestly, every single episode I laugh out loud.
Same.
How many shows can you say do that? Even comedy shows, like I laugh out loud at this show. Yeah. Almost every time.
And I would say with the quote that I used all the time out of nowhere, like people would be like, you know, as simple as a question of like, hey, Brittany, do you want to go? Can you go get lunch right now? And I'm like, can a shark ruin a family vacation? Like, because, and like, instead of saying, does a bear shit in the woods, Jess says, can a shark ruin a family vacation? And it is my favorite thing to say because it catches people off guard, because I think it's like a New Girl has so many of those jokes that they're not, it's not that set up joke. It's that very like, all these things can be very overlooked because they're so subtle, and if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss it.
It's in the dialogue most of the time. Like the writing is just so smart and quick, and it's almost like hidden gems. Like you do rewatch and you're like, oh my god, did he just say this? Like I didn't even notice that he said that the first time because I'm distracted by this other crazy thing happening.
Exactly.
But it's that good. Yeah.
So saying that to people in real life and getting their reactions are like, huh? Like what did you just say to me? And I just love it. I love it so much.
That's great.
And I would say too, with, you know, Zooey Deschanel, what a person to look up to in this industry for sure. And her comedic, I mean, Puppy in a Cup, that scene. Yeah. I mean, that's like, you know, I would say she's the closest to Diane Chambers of Cheers. I don't know if you watched Cheers, but no. So Diane was just this really incredibly smart, poised, very prim and proper person, but she had the best timing and she was so grounded in her comedy and just played the truth so much. And I think that's what, you know, Nick and Jess and all of them are doing the most outrageous things in the world, but none of that's going to work if you're not grounded in the truth of it all. And if you play funny, it's not going to be funny. You have to play the truth of it. So when she's in there, because she's at a job interview, she's on her period, and she sees a cute puppy in a cup, and then the woman actually tells her that the puppy is no longer, and Zooey Deschanel's just crying. But you're sitting there again, you're laughing because you're like, I have been there where you're on your period and you're emotional or you're hormonal, and the littlest thing at the worst time just sets you off and there's no coming back from it.
No, I mean, the actors on that show, not only are they very funny, but they have such grounded moments. Even in the pilot, when Jess is sitting in that restaurant, she's been stood up by the guy and
oh my God. I cry every time.
Do that. Like, it's so sweet and honest. It was that was a perfect pilot, honestly.
You know, I find that the shows that I end up watching that I really get hooked on, it's from the jump, the pilot. I mean, the pilot episode of Friends is my favorite, and New Girl has an incredible pilot. Modern Family has an incredible pilot. Cheers. I mean, a lot of the shows that I'm obsessed with, it stems from a perfect pilot, in my opinion. One of the scenes, I'm wondering if you've ever had one of these moments, the scene where Jess is being like a shot girl and everybody's like, shot girl. And she, you know, isn't a teacher anymore. She loses her job and she's like, I can be a shot girl, and like is working at a bar and like dancing for tips and, you know, pouring people shots. And then she just has this moment of like, what am I doing? Like, this is not who I am. What am I doing? And like leaves, and it's just like goes and cries in the school parking lot. And when Nick comes to like pick her spirits up, it's like one of the sweetest moments ever. I mean, I'm assuming you have had one of those moments because we live in Los Angeles. So
we're like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like odds and ends jobs. Like there's so many times. I mean, I used to wax vaginas for a living. There's so many times I'd be like, what am I doing? Why am I still here? Like,
you, by the way, have some of the best stories. Like, you really do.
Yeah, a lot of this can't
from that
be told
job
right
in
now.
particular, from all your jobs, like, you have the best stories. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
No, yeah, that's true. I do have a lot of good ones. But what's been your oddest job living in LA?
That's tough. I mean, I've been a personal assistant multiple times for different people, and that always encompasses a lot of odd things. I'm like, job, okay, cool. I've been a math tutor. That was kind of an odd job. I'm trying to think what else I've done. I worked
too. Like, even the way that I'm like, I don't want to sound like this sounds so weird. But like, you're like really smart. Like,
dude, you do like brain stuff. Yeah.
Even like in this whole interview, like the way you've been speaking, and even when I'm like having one of those super off days and like just like venting to you about something, like you speak so eloquently and you're very insightful. And I think you are just so very articulate and basically everything I'm not being right now. You are.
So funny. That's really generous of you to say. I'm going to do my best just to like take that on. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. That's very kind. But it's so funny because I've been sitting here the whole time thinking like, wow, she is so good at carrying on this conversation and doing interviews. Like, she looks like such a professional. Like, wow, I hope I'm not messing up her podcast. Like, so it's so funny, like how our vantage point is just
so different. Yeah.
Very different from where we're sitting. So I don't think that about you at all. And every time I listen to your podcast, I'm like, wow, like she comes up with these great questions and like insightful comments about what people are bringing to the table, and the conversation never lags. And it's amazing what you do.
Thank you.
And I think you're very articulate.
I also feel like sometimes like when I'm with my friends, I forget that I'm like doing a podcast and that other people are even going to listen to this conversation. So
you don't need to. We can just keep this for us.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Who cares? And I also can edit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
I'm talking
about math tutor, but like I'm not that smart. It was like high school math. Come on.
Okay, no, because math is hard, and
it's hard, but everyone did high school math. So.
It was so funny. I was babysitting, and the little girl was having a really hard time with her math homework, and she like wouldn't stop like complaining about having to do math homework, and I was getting so frustrated. And I was like, "Oh, okay, it can't be that hard. Let's work it out together." And then I got the problem wrong like 3 times.
Just FaceTime me next time. We'll work on it together.
Oh, see, I was always so bad at math. Like right when texting came out, a lot of my friends were like already in college when it was like my senior year, and I would just text them, be like, what's the answer? And they would do it for me. I was not a mathematician. Let me tell you that much.
You're not alone. Apparently, like post-COVID, when they've been doing these standardized tests for kids who have, you know, and we're kind of like measuring the effects of like, what is schooling from home or remote learning looking like? And what are the effects on this generation of kids? And like math scores have dropped hugely, not so much in reading, but math has really dropped. And they're attributing a lot of it to the fact that parents at home like do not feel equipped to support their kids in math, but they feel good. Like everyone does like bedtime story or, you know,
right.
Like
well,
that,
and honestly, it's like, how many times have I even used half of this shit? Nobody has asked me any of these questions in my daily life, and jokes on all of you, because I do have a calculator in my pocket at all times. So
exactly.
Whatever. What character do you relate to the most?
Well, I feel like all of them, like when they're going through this specific thing. So of if I had to pick one, I guess I want to say, I think Nick maybe, just because he's not really sure of himself. He's still kind of like pursuing his passion, even though it's hard. He's not always getting the rewards that he wants. He's actually not that good at it. Like people joke, or there's like a joke that people reading his novel are like fall asleep, like no one's that into it, but he's still passionate about it and like pursuing it and doesn't judge what he does. And he's not like measuring himself against other people. I guess it's more who I aspire to be.
Yeah.
Than who I am right now. But like, I just like that he's kind of like, you know what? This is what I love and I don't care. And that actually brings me to the quote that I love from New Girl that I've taken away, which is from the Prince episode. I don't know if you're recall.
Oh, so good.
So good. And my mom loves Prince, so I think it holds a special place in my heart for that reason as well. But he says, anything beautiful is worth getting hurt for.
Oh,
I just love it. Interpersonally, I think that's so valuable to remember when you're putting yourself out there, like in relationships or friendships or anything like that. I also think it's so valuable, like as a creator and as a artist, like anything beautiful and anything you put in your heart into, it's worth it. It's worth the cost of like the vulnerability.
That's so true. It's so true. Nothing, worth having comes easily. That's for sure.
Right. Very true.
Is there like any character, it doesn't even have to be from New Girl. Is there a character you channel in your hard times?
Yeah, it's kind of the first person that comes or character that comes to mind. It's kind of like curveball, but Charlize Theron in Mad Max is such. Brittany, you've never seen that movie? No. Actually, that might be part of the reason that I decided that I wanted to be a screen actor as opposed to a theater actor. Because I wish you could see it in the theater just because it's so visually astounding and the sound design and all these things. I'll watch it with you because it's awesome and it inspires me every time. But the women in this movie, I just loved. Charlize's character is such a badass. She has her arm. She doesn't have an arm and she's like this fighter and she's like almost like one of the guys. And I also like that they show this side of femininity, like the women that she's trying to help escape the kingdom are these very feminine, like womanly, they're like the mothers of the community. It's this whole situation. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but like, I just love that they show the strength of the femininity and also the strength of this like femininity that doesn't look traditionally feminine, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so I just love that she's unafraid. Like that is what I wish I were more unafraid and would just walk into the flames and drive out into the desert and like kick ass. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to be doing out here in my Los Angeles desert.
Yeah. I love that though, and I think that's what is so important of having women and everybody be able to see themselves on screen and representation and like just having, again, characters to aspire to be your characters to channel or being like, well, they got through it, so I can, or like just kind of having that blueprint in front of you, whether, it be somebody that's battling cancer in a movie and you're like going through a really hard health battle and you're seeing all the vulnerability and the strength and everything that this person is fighting. And you're like, oh, okay, I can do it too. And like, clearly I'm not the only one going through this. So it's like when you need to channel that, like, okay, I need to tackle this day. I need to take shit head on. Like I'm Charlize Theron in Mad Max. Like, let's fucking go. I mean, I've talked about it a few times on here, like Fiona Gallagher she gets shit done. And
yeah, you are her. I feel like you are her.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna play that character.
Minus, the alcoholism and
not that part. I just mean like her energy where she's like scrappy and she's like, I'm gonna get it done. Yeah. It's not gonna be perfect, but I'm gonna get it done.
Right. But, and it's funny because I was actually talking to Mickey about this too, when, my depression had gotten really bad after the holidays. And he was like, I don't know if this helps you, but like having an alter ego and just switching into that person for yourself, being like, okay, well, today I'm going to be so-and-so. And this is how they handle it. And, it's kind of like Beyonce does it, I guess, with her Sasha Fierce. It's like, having that ability to just kind of get out of your own brain and channel somebody else, I think is super important sometimes.
I love that. And it's so funny. I feel that I didn't really have a voice growing up. Like I felt very small. Like I didn't know enough about anything to kind of speak on it, whether it be the world or politics or any of it. And so I just kind of stayed quiet, but acting gave me permission to make mistakes and explore ideas and say things without feeling so afraid of the consequences or that people might judge me for them, for saying the things, if that makes sense. So it's nice to like think, like maybe I could just call it an alter ego and pursue what I want without fear and like be a badass and say what I want and speak up for myself. And I could just call it someone else. So it feels maybe like safer for my little lizard brain that thinks everyone's out to kill me and I should stay in my cave.
I feel the exact same. And you're in therapy, correct?
Oh yeah. All of it.
Yeah. What was the deciding factor for you to go to therapy?
I first like explored counseling or whatever in college when I had a really low moment. I had a weird fallout with someone I thought was a close friend, and I just started to feel kind of out of control.
Ugh, friend breakups are the worst.
Yeah, it was the first time in my entire life that I had really had that happen with someone that I cared about, and it just felt bad. And so I started talking to someone. They have like free counseling at the school I went to. I was very fortunate. And I spoke with her for like the remainder of my time there. I think it was like maybe a year and a half. And then when I moved out to LA, I was sort of on pause, getting my feet on the ground out here. And then like a couple years ago, I was in an acting class, and actually my acting teacher said, like, Caroline, you don't have to be broken or in pain to be a good actor. And I was like, huh? What do you mean? Right. My brokenness is like what makes me a good actor. And he was like, no. Please no. Like that is not, like we need you to be okay so that like being in these scenes and exploring these kind of emotional territories is actually safe for you.
What a good teacher.
And so, and honestly, I've been blessed with many teachers that have been in tune with the mental health aspect of what we do. Not only like the external business pieces of like disappointment and all of those pieces, but
our bodies don't know we're acting.
Exactly. So we need to be the most adept in tune with our like emotional health so that we can maintain like, it's actually, that's what I did my research project on my senior thesis in college was about like the brain in acting. Our brains like don't understand that we've tricked ourselves into a given circumstance.
Right.
And sometimes like, we need tools to either like calm ourselves down, tell ourselves it's okay, leave that like given circumstance for ourselves in a way that is safe. I mean, acting is such a gift because we can explore all of those lived experiences without actually having to live them. But at the same time, like your heart and body can't always keep up with that. So it's just really good to like be in touch with your body and your heart, because you take on a lot that you might not know that you're taking on. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think we have talked a lot about New Girl, and we've talked a lot about great gems. So many great gems in here for mental health and,
We're bejeweled. Yeah.
So with all that being said, I mean, you have said many beautiful things throughout this interview, and we've touched on a little bit here and there of this question, I think, with like the getting the sunlight thing. But what's the most useful piece of advice you've gotten for your depression, and what helps you maintain your mental health?
I think the tangible, my brain really responds to tangible action items. So having things that I can hold myself accountable to, like 20 minutes of sunlight between 10 and 2, I'm like, okay, I can commit to that. I'll make it happen. The other things that have been really helpful are like getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, taking care of my body. Like our brains are our body, like they are in our body. So just taking care of yourself and just being in touch with like, wow, maybe I shouldn't go have a drink with friends, or maybe I just need a night to sleep, or maybe I need a night by myself to kind of decompress. Being in touch with like the things that fill your cup. I'm also trying to work really hard on not overcommitting or not saying yes to things that I actually just don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like so often, if I happen to be available, if I have the time on my schedule, I will just say yes without thinking for a second, wait, Caroline, do you actually want to do that? Is that going to fill your cup? Are you going to feel good doing that? Or are you going to leave that situation or activity or encounter feeling tired, wiped out, less than? Like just being really in touch with like, or running everything that comes across my plate through that metric. Like, will this fill your cup or not? And fish oil, man. If you don't eat salmon, fish oil.
I was so not expecting that.
I'm telling you, so it has to have more. I have it right here. I was going to take it right after.
See, I don't know. Maybe because I'm 90 years old and everything gives me acid reflux. Burping after a fish oil pill, that'll do it.
No, that's never happened to me. That's never happened to me. Not probably. But apparently if it has more EPA than DHA, which I think is naturally occurring in things like salmon, which I don't love salmon, so I have to take a supplement, really helps. Apparently it helps like lubricate the neurons in your brain to open the possibilities that like there's a whole lot of other parts of your brain that could fire instead. Like instead of that one little spot that you keep firing.
Yeah.
So just to open up to those other options in there.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love it. I sometimes wonder, I think taking this full circle, I'm like, I really do relate to Nick Miller so much because I am still a child. I'm like thinking to myself right now, I'm like, I don't take supplements and I don't have my shit together whatsoever. Like I am not one of those girls. But like, even like I feel like women in general have such good organized bathrooms of like their makeup and this and that. And I am organized chaos. I dust my Lego sets and like everything is like just kind of all over the place and weird and colorful and cluttered. And that is Nick Miller. And I'm like, just thinking about like, wow, I should probably take supplements. Like I don't take any supplements. I probably out of anybody should really be doing that. But
yeah, but also like you went through a health thing where you were trying to like, let's take away everything and see where we land. So like, let's not beat yourself up.
True.
You're very health conscious and you take care of yourself.
True.
And you're an adult.
But I do like, I still really think I relate to Nick Miller a lot when he's like, I don't know if I could even read. Like,
wait, oh my God. I just watched the episode where Coach is moving out and they're talking about clean break and like throwing stuff away. And Nick has like the hardest time.
Yeah. That's
hardest time throwing stuff away. He's like, I'm thinking about throwing away my sunglasses. And then he goes and he's like, doesn't feel right. He's like wearing them. They're like these horrible old sunglasses. It's sentimental. He's like, they're all connected. They all mean something.
No, he's the best. He's truly the best. And it's interesting how that's the type of guy who's making me want to be in a relationship. Somebody I have to take care of. Of course.
No. We're not doing that.
Again. Anyways, I love you so much. This has been so much fun. And honestly, like I have it in my note here, like just to end this on a mushy note of like, I have seen you grow so much in our friendship. And I just feel like it's such a privilege to get to watch my friends grow like that. And like, I've seen how you have always been so morally strong in a lot of things that can get to people in LA. You've always been there for me. You know, whether it's a self-tape or a horrible situation that I'm dealing with, or my health, and, you know, and seeing the type of confidence that you've gotten over the last 5-6 years also. And like, just really being who you are and watching your acting career take off and watching how productive you are and how much you care about the things you're putting out into the world and the time that you take to listen to your friends and the advice that you give. I just feel very lucky to have all of that and get to witness all of it too.
Oh God. I'm so overwhelmed by that. But I heard all of it and I'm going to be processing for the rest of the day how lovely that was. So thank you. And I feel so privileged to have a front row seat to watch your success as well and your growth. I feel really lucky that we've found each other, and I'm just grateful that we're sitting in the place that we are right now.
I know. Give you cookie, got me cookie.
Give me cookie, got you cookie.
Give me cookie, got you cookie. Got you cookie.
So good. Oh my God, that's a great episode too.
I know. Literally anybody who watches New Girl will understand what just happened. Sure. Because that's literally what just happened.
Basically. Give me cookie, got you cookie.
Give me cookie, got me cookie. Okay, I love you so much. We can talk for hours, but I'm sure I'll talk to you in like 5 minutes anyway. Okay, I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for doing this.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.